Coach, how would you describe the vibe of the team right now?
Uh, Great energy. We've been these last couple of days and going into tomorrow as well. We've been sitting down doing check-ins, right? How has the first half gone? What things do we like? Where do we need to? Where do we want to see our focus going towards? How can we make improvements? And a lot of guys are saying very similar things. One thing that we're hearing a lot is they love the culture. They love the want to fight and get better, and they respect one another. And there's a lot of reflection on what went well in the fall and the winter and building up how they were making gains. So the guys are really hungry right now to continue to improve. And I think it's unanimous. We know we haven't played up to our full potential yet. So it's exciting for many of us. All the student athletes really feel like, man, when we continue to keep working and put this thing together, you see how good we are going to be. So that's, I would say right now, especially after yesterday's practice and getting out, and guys are excited to go out there and practice again today. Obviously a very difficult last week. The weekend and the series against Gonzaga. I mean, the last game against Utah. We had to go through some adversity. I think what a lot of guys feel is it builds the hunger, and we know we can respond to it. So these are the kind of moments that, if anything, when hardship comes, you need to keep your eyes up and be together, because that's like a defining moment where some guys can take off and go the wrong route, and the real family can bond together and get after it and maintain humility to go to work and not start pointing fingers or anything like that. So I like where the guys' attitude is right now and their ability to be coached and to coach one another.
What was the most frustrating part beyond just the straight losses of that series over the weekend?
Still trying to put all the pieces together. Those big moments. Obviously you want to see the offense, put up more runs. You want to see the limiting of free bases, hit by pitch or walks. But again, when we look at those kind of things, like what went wrong and what haven't we been doing and why haven't we gotten there yet? Are we drifting away from the things that made us great, that we believed in? Are we going into the games with full confidence? Are we prepared in the first, second, third inning? Usually late in the game, that's when our offense starts to wake up and show more intent. And again, I think this has helped all of our guys start to see and buy into, this is what we're talking about when we prepare before the game, what it should look like. We haven't been very good in the first inning getting runners on and scoring right out the gate. And why is that? So let's examine what we're doing right before the game to be locked in, and not just do things just because that's the way they've been done, but let's do what helps us prepare and be ready for that first pitch, to have a competitive at bat, to get on, to put energy in our corner and stick with it. And from the freshmen all the way up to the oldest guys here, it seems like they've been talking about that amongst themselves quite a bit, and they're still working to make adjustments. So that's a very encouraging piece. But the overall frustration, I'd say, just it is what it is. You obviously don't want to get swept. You don't want to lose a series. You don't want to lose a game. You don't want to lose any at bats. But the reality is that's what's happened. So now the opportunity of how are you going to respond to it is extremely important.
Mitch, I don't know if the term like come to Jesus moment is like the right phrase. Maybe soul searching is probably a little more apt, but do you feel like an adequate amount of that has kind of happened in the last couple of days among your guys, and just taking accountability among themselves without you as a staff needing to push them in that direction?
Well, you want that drive from the student athletes. There are groups that are going to constantly look for other people to take the reins and make it happen. And, our coaching staff is very involved. We communicate a ton with our guys. We're out there, whether it's, fielding ground balls with them, picking it, leading by example, or just how we go over and put a hand on somebody's shoulder and try to bring them back. But when it's fueled by the student athletes and they, who knows how long it's going to take or when that aha moment clicks. I remember back in 2007, we were playing in a regional, and Chris Hopkins hits a home run to left center, and you just felt the entire vibe and the energy, like we're never going to lose. And it propelled us through the postseason. It all just depends when it's going to happen. And look at these guys when they go out and practice. Yesterday at practice, I saw a group of guys stand around one another, and they were doing an exercise which I didn't think would happen. They sat around and they basically said, all right, let's tell each other what we're not very good at. I mean, be honest with one another and be hard on one another and say, this is where you need to improve. And you're hearing it from your peers, right? And for the guys to open up and tell that to someone else is one thing, but also for the guys to hear the truth coming and be ready to make adjustments. All right, hold me accountable to it. Dude, you need to throw your breaking ball for a strike more often. Otherwise, no one's going to swing at it. And for a guy to hear that and not, go down in the dumps or be like, yeah, whatever, man. Well, you got this. It's more like, hey, thank you for sharing that. You're right. I'm going to work on it. Will you help me work on it together? I think those are extremely valuable moments. I do believe you should always value people that respond to hardship, people that respond to getting out. We don't just look at a guy when he makes the big play or he gets the hit, or they win the game. How do they respond, and what do you see when they fail? What do you see when they're not on top of the podium? Because most of the times, like, guys are successful. Why? Because of all the work that they've put in that started months, years ago. Most of the guys, when they fail, what do? Did we drift away from the things that made us great? Did you really believe? Because what I keep hearing out of the guys is, well, what are we going to do the second half? You know what, coach? The work builds the confidence. And we're going to work. And we want to work. And it's not just, the time that we're allotted here. These guys, you can tell that they want to go work with one another after hours. So it's encouraging in that respect, but we also have to make sure that you trust in those things and you go out and get the job done.
Not to get too armchair psychologist about all that, but I mean, how rare do you think it is for a group of early 20 guys who are really prideful about what they do to be able to take that on the chin and take that look in the mirror and listen to what people are telling them?
It's important. It shows that there's great leadership in the clubhouse, and it's promising for not only the present moment, but also for the future. And it's a product of what this program has always been about. You're going to take your licks and you're going to get back up. It's the one thing that I refuse to watch is if someone gets knocked down, staying down or moping your head. We talk a lot about body language, and when a guy gets out, I'm not just turning away from it. I'm going to sit there and stare at it and see how are they responding to the failure. When they make a right turn going through first base, are they looking down at their feet or are their eyes up? How do they enter the dugout? Are they bringing negativity back, or are they helping the next guy in line? Because it's not a me versus the pitcher thing. It's 9 of us versus 1. 9 hitters versus that one guy on the mound. And even then you can look into even more. It's all of us versus that guy. We're together on this. It's not my hit, it's our hit. It's not my error, it's our error. It's not my run, it's our run. And when you're a pitcher on the mound, in our mind, it's buying into, it's not me versus this guy. It's all of us versus that guy in the box. I got a full defense behind me. I'm ready to rock, and I'm not worried he's going to put it in play. I want you to put it in play because look what I got behind me, right? It's that belief. And it's sticking with it, not drifting. So honestly, as we're reflecting after the games this weekend and going into Monday and having an off day, You know, those times of reflection are important, and how we came out and practiced yesterday, paying very close attention to that. I was excited to see the way the guys went about their work, and we started to make adjustments. And when you fail, that's when, I guess what I was saying, you know, when the student's ready, the teacher arrives. When guys are now ready, even more so, to learn and to make adjustments. Sometimes when you're winning a lot of games, not everyone wants to make adjustments, but we talked about this before. Hey, I know we won, but I don't like the free bases. You know, we got to eliminate, you know, falling behind the counts. The 1-1 count's probably the most crucial count, biggest swing. 2-1, batting averages are skyrocketed. Or 1-2, they plummet. And, you know, there's like we're looking at our stats, there's like a 200-point swing for our pitchers. If our pitchers go 1-2 as opposed to 2-1, there's a 200-point swing on batting average against. So, you know, now we know where we need to spend more time dominating. We need to spend more time in our throwing program, our visualizations, you know, our midweek live scrimmages against one another. These are the situations we're going to put ourselves in until we get better at it.
Hey, Mitch, you've used roughly 312 different lineups this year. I think Hank's running out of room in his game notes to use them all. And we've talked about it a couple times. You say you like the randomness, and that's baseball. Is that it exclusively, or do you also are kind of searching for what works? Could you just elaborate on your kind of theory behind using that?
Yeah, I mean, I always think of it too as random can be fine. You know, there's something to be said about consistency. You know where you're at, but if it's not, now the reason the lineup has changed is you're looking for the best matchup and the best flow in the lineup. You want to score runs. So sometimes putting a guy in a certain spot, you see this as being more beneficial for him. Having a certain guy in front of him against this guy is going to get this guy better pitches. This might, you know, help out this guy getting on base, or eliminate a breaking ball because they don't want to fall behind if this guy has a hard time throwing a breaking ball for a strike. So you're always looking at, you know, who are the guys, especially early in the order, like this guy can get on base and he's probably going to get more at bats than the guy down in the order. So who's the guy that you want to see a ton of at bats going to early? Who's the guy that can really set the tone in this certain situation? Sometimes having a guy, you know, in the 8 or 9 hole frees them up, and it's nice knowing that you have a guy that can really bop down in the order and make the pitcher work 1 through 9. So I think on a given day, it can always change, but there's no doubt you're always trying to put the best lineup together to score the most runs. And, you know, each part of the lineup, some guys can hit really well in the 4 hole. Some guys, it gets to them and they think all of a sudden I got to become a big bopper. You know, sometimes hitting in the 6 hole is a very valuable spot because, man, the pitcher locks in 1 through 4, and, you know, then they start to let down a little bit, and those guys down in the order, you expect them to really be able to continue to put pressure on them, so that when we go through the order again, you know, the pitcher's gassed. So I think it varies day to day, and the conversation about, you know, being able to handle the randomness, like it shouldn't matter where I'm hitting at in the lineup. And if we want to be really successful, the game is always going to be random for us. I swung at a pitch that was a really good pitch, and the pitcher should have got me out, but I got a knock, right? And so how are you going to respond to it? Are you going to be held up in that as, man, I just made my pitch. How in the heck am I still in this situation? Or a guy made an unexpected error, or I didn't get the call that I wanted. How do you respond to it? And I think our ability to show up and say, how can I be present right here, right now, regardless of where I'm hitting? Because hitting 4 hole only happens once in a game, right? Not really. It happens every inning. There's a new 4 hole hitter pretty much every inning. So if our goal is to generate runs, it's what skill set do I have, and how can I bring it to the table? But, you know, usually, you know, those guys that are hitting early in the lineup, their odds of having an extra AB are extremely important, and they're going to be coming a lot more frequently. So, Melton has been a guy that has high on base percentage. He can hammer the baseball. His speed provides a lot of energy. So moving him up into the order, is this a guy that you want sitting in the hole in the ninth inning, or would you like to have your best chance of having him up at the plate? And I think a lot of our guys look at him and Forrester. Why are they hitting up in the lineup right now? Is because guys want to see him hit more often because they're spark plugs. You can trust him to do big things. So, we still have a lot of dialogue with our staff. Like, consistency is extremely important. So why a guy will be hot for a weekend, and that's where you start to dial in on him too, is he going to start getting bigger with his swing, or is he able to stay the same guy? Or if he starts to struggle, is this a guy that, maybe moving him down in the lineup takes the pressure off him, where he doesn't think that he needs to necessarily go out there and drive in a run every time. He just needs to go out there and get the job done. So I wouldn't say I have it down to, exact science. It's always learning on our end as well. But a lot of it is just us reading our guys and what they're coming with on a day-to-day basis, because they're all still working on being consistent. And, you put them in the best spot where you find them to be successful on that given day.
Do you hope to have it solidified at any point, or do you like the randomness and you want to keep churning that out? Your perfect world is more option B.
No, I mean, an ideal situation, like, the guys can create the lineup. If you're consistent every day, if there's a guy who is a juggernaut of a leadoff hitter to start out the game, he's always ready, and he's a guy that you can count on to get on base. The highest on base guy should be hitting leadoff, right? And that goes with the 2-hole. 3-hole is the highest slug guy, and the 4-hole is another high on base guy. The guys that get on, you want them to have more at bats. The more times guys get on, the better. And so, it goes with the defensive stuff too, and it goes with righty lefty matchup, maybe a little bit here and there of, if this lefty's really got some good stuff, this might be a better matchup for another guy early in the game. But perfect world, it's guys know where they're hitting in the lineup because there's complete consistency to it. And they're going to bring out the same energy, the same focus. You know what you're going to get. Quality at bats. That's, I think, what's important. It's not necessarily the hits or not. Is if the guy gets in there, you're going to have 0 for 4 days, right? But is this guy in the box? Is he the same guy the next day after he's 0 for 4 as if he's 4 for 4, right? Because you can trust consistency.
What do you think makes Jack Washburn so special? What do you think has kind of helped him step into the role that he has this season?
Big change in the middle game. If you also the physicality. If you looked at him a year ago and you stand next to him now, he's much more physically developed. He's stronger. He's more, the durability has increased, which has helped his recovery. His posture has gotten better, which is going to help maintain his shoulder, his elbow, his lower half, all that stuff. So just how he walked, talked, and acts is much more improved than it was last year. He's made big strides, and I think a lot of it has to do with the mental game. He's spent a lot of time there, and I'll let him elaborate on maybe his process on what he's done. But he's got the right mentorship on that side of the game, and he's bought into it, and he's sticking with his plan. So whereas last year it was, he'd have a good inning, like that, sitting down and getting back up can be difficult to learn how to do, and he's doing it better and better each time. Also embracing the roles of whatever you need me to do, I'm going to go out there and work to get outs. You need me to start, I'll start. You need me to come out of the pen and go short, I'll go short. You need me to go long, I'll go long. So he's just embracing the fact that when I get the ball, I am going to be ready. And like we talked about earlier today when we met with him, like, he's not afraid to work out on the day. And some guys get hesitant, like getting a lift in the day of the game. he doesn't believe that's going to take away from him. He's trying to continue to grow, physically, mentally, emotionally. And so just how he handles the highs and lows right now is much more mature than it was a year ago. So that's the kind of stuff you like to see and applaud and encourage to not drift away from that growth process.
Hey guys, last question.
I mean, I'm sure that makes life easy on you to have a guy who's that versatile who you can throw in any situation. I mean, obviously you have a lot of arms to choose from, but when you can put him in, when you can start him inning 1, you can throw him in the 8th, when you can have him throw the 4th through 7th, just how nice is it to have something like that?
Love it. Coach Dorman even told Wash today, he goes, look, man, Mitch loves it when you're on the card to throw that day. I do. When I know that he's available for the game, it makes me feel good. Like for just same way as does a lot of the guys, is when Wash is ready to go and throw, you're gonna get some nasty stuff. And it can be a bridge guy, it can be a shutdown guy, it can be a long guy. So it's very versatile what we're seeing from him right now. And his growth in the past year, especially on the mental game, that also encourages other guys to start to, I guess, trust that zone a little bit more, right? Every time someone has success, everyone always looks to it and goes, what are they doing? How did that happen? Maybe I should trust that and try it a little bit more as well too, because that's been a big part, is consistency, right? It's not one hitter I'm good, the next hitter I'm zoned out, the next one I'm good. It's guy after guy after guy that steps in the box, Jack's ready to go face him. So it's almost like you don't notice him running around as much because he's on the same level, he's cruising, as opposed to one day he's really high, big energy all over the place, bouncing off the walls, and then the next day, down the dumps, body language is down. It's consistency in how he shows up to practice. So he's throwing really well, and I'm looking forward to a great second half for him as well.
Hey, Goop, I wanted to just kind of ask first, I mean, how does this team go about the few days after that series? I know obviously not the result that you guys wanted. What does the bounce back process look like?
I think it's just understanding who we are and what we're capable of. I think it's a lot of the mental side and staying positive. Keep doing what we're doing, staying strong in the weight room, taking care of costs, working the spokes down, and get better every day.
And I know that has just kind of talked all season about how much belief it has in itself and kind of how veteran of a group this is. How much does that help, having guys who have been there, done that before, when you have a series like that?
Yeah, we got a road thing going on. We got people like Kevin Abel, Troy Collins keeping us up, keeping our heads up, and really understanding that it's only one series out of the plenty that we have this season. It's not really a big importance. Well, I mean, it kind of is, but at the same time, you got more games to play and move on. So got to keep pushing through.
What was the message from Mitch and the coaches after the weekend?
It was kind of understanding that these are the types of situations that you can either get better or fold, and understanding that this is just adversity that's going to happen throughout a season. And then understanding that you can only control what you can, and controlling the controllables, and taking this as motivation and getting better. So
from a player perspective, what was the most frustrating part of the weekend, beyond just the losses, but like the way you played and all that stuff? What was the most frustrating part?
I think it was just not playing to our potential and what we've shown in the past series. UW, we played terrific. Offense was going, pitching was going. Through a combined no-hitter, we just had all the confidence in the world, and then we got to Oregon, and that kind of took a downhill spiral. But it's hard, but you got to keep pushing through.
I wanted to ask kind of about your season personally. Cooper, I know you've had a really good season statistically, and the stuff's looking better. What do you think is the biggest thing that you've kind of improved on since you arrived in Corvallis?
Well, last year, from the scouting reports, I threw like 80% fastballs, and I think the most important thing that I've been working on is landing a secondary pitch and more than one. Been working on a slider grip, curveball, changeup, staying through with my mechanics, staying towards or through my target, staying grounded, and then that's giving me the confidence to land more than just a fastball in the zone at any count. So I think developing 3 other pitches besides a fastball is what's helped me a lot through this season so far.
I know a lot of guys would probably be happy to kind of develop one reliable off-speed pitch. How do you go about kind of doing 3 at once like you're doing?
During a start, in the pen, I can throw all of them and then let Dor, Troy know which ones I'm feeling most confident in. Like if a slider is feeling more confident than the curveball, then I'll let Troy know, hey, call this more often than the curveball. But yeah, no, it's really fun when you have all 4 going. So
which are you kind of most comfortable with? Which do you think you have the best feel for at this point consistently?
I have a lot of confidence in both the changeup and slider equally, I think. I kind of changed my grip on the slider for the Oregon series, and it was the nastiest it's ever been and the most confident I've ever been in it. So probably going to stick with that grip throughout the rest of the season.
Is it like weird or uncomforting doing that on the fly before a big game like that, like kind of changing your grip?
Yeah, a little bit, but I was messing with it towards the end of my start in UW and then in Utah as well. So I was just playing catch with it and it felt good, and then started throwing in my bullpens and flat grounds and stuff, and it felt better than my other grip. So started playing around with it and it worked out. So
what is it like going through that improvement process? And I mean, in this program where everything is so analytics based and you're probably getting a lot more information than you would probably more than anywhere else in the country, right?
Yeah, something like that. But I think it's just basically having the confidence in it and then throwing it for a strike and landing something. It doesn't have to be a nasty pitch. You just have to get it into the zone so the hitter can respect more than just a fastball that you're throwing. I think landing more than one pitch is detrimental and very important for a pitcher to have success down the road, not just in college ball, but in the professional realm as well.
What is Dorman's approach working with you guys? Is it hands-on? Is he laid back? Like, what is a day at the field like with him?
It's a lot of everything. We do PFPs, mechanic stuff, pickoffs, but I think it's just him having us understand that if you want to pitch for a long time, you have to throw every pitch with conviction and throw the pitch that you want, that you can land and you're confident in. So that's why when he's calling pitches, he's fine with us shaking off and throwing another pitch that we're confident in, we're going to get in there for a strike. But it's just I think he really emphasizes having confidence in yourself and throwing with conviction and passion. So
did you ever go up to drive line? I know it's like the cliche question at this point, but
no, I've never gone to drive line, but planning on doing something like that, like shred athletics or something this summer, and maybe figure out some more stuff going on with my body in that analytical standpoint. So.
Hey, Coop, when you look at this team, obviously you guys have a lot of wins and you have a good conference record. Most of your wins have come against the bottom teams in the conference, though. And this was, kind of your first test against an elite team. Is there any concern about, racking up these wins against the lower tier teams and faltering a little bit there?
I don't think we have any less confidence in these teams than we are in UCLA or Stanford or any other team like that. It's Pac-12, so I think anyone can beat anyone on any given day, and I stand by that. So, no, we're not lacking confidence going into these series whatsoever.
Hey, Jack, I wanted to ask just what have these last few days been like since the Oregon series ended? I know it's obviously not the result you guys wanted, but how do you kind of go about the process after that?
The process for the guys doesn't really change. There's just a couple turning points in those games that didn't go our way. But there's nothing been changing too much. We're just bearing down and they're doing everything in practice as we have been, making sure we do everything right.
How frustrating in a couple of days is that when you guys are in every game and it's not like you're getting blown out, just to not have things quite go your way?
That's baseball. It's definitely frustrating, but it's just something you got to deal with. It's going to happen again. Hopefully not for 3 games straight, but those kind of games happen and we're just got to move on and keep playing baseball.
I know sometimes those losses kind of turn into places where you can finally have some of, the hard discussions that might not have been had if you guys were winning like that. Were there any frank discussions that happened in the aftermath of that to kind of set everybody straight and reset things maybe a little?
There wasn't so much harsh discussions as it was just kind of like a reality check Like, we aren't invincible. We can't get beat by anybody. As good as we think that we are, we still have to play every game and not ever ease up on the gas.
Is there a little extra frustration, perhaps just the bullpen's role in the losses? You guys have been so good all season, and then to kind of have a couple tough moments, does that make it, I guess, more frustrating?
I think so. One emphasis that we've had lately is no free passes. I think, I don't know how many the exact number is, but I would guess the majority of the runs that we gave up in that series were off free passes, like walks, hit by pitches, things like that. And I know that we've been putting a lot of emphasis on that lately, just to make sure to minimize free passes.
I wanted to ask about kind of your journey to Oregon State. I mean, coming out of Wisconsin, how do you end up all the way up in Corvallis? How did you get on their radar? How did they get on your radar?
I just grew up a baseball fan, was watching the 2017, 2018 College World Series. Oregon State was one of those teams that you just kind of fell in love with. You saw how much passion those guys played with. And when Coach Yeski actually recruited me, I got the opportunity to come visit, and I also fell in love with this place.
So that had a pretty big impact, just seeing the 2018 stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't so much that they were winning, it was just how they played the game. You could see, like, compared to some of the other teams there, that those guys were all together and they played baseball right, which is one of the things that I try to do every time I take the field.
What was that first visit out to Corvallis like? Did you play West Coast League and come out here and play the Knights, or was your like official visit your first time here?
It was on my visit that I first came on here.
And, I mean, you talked about Yeski. How good of a recruiter was he? And I guess how appealing did it kind of seem to play for him at the time?
He was good at his job. I mean, as anybody could be. I don't remember too much of it other than it was more the program and the guys. When I got here, they just embraced me like a family member would, and just made me feel like at home, even though I was just some random junior taking a visit, you know?
Yeah, what has kind of the day-to-day stuff been like working with Coach Dorman and working with Mitch? And I know Mitch has been really complimentary of the leap that you've taken from last year to this year. What has that whole kind of whirlwind of a year been like?
Rich and Mitch have been the biggest guys in the helping along with my progression. I think the biggest jumps I've made is probably in my mental game, and Mitch has been a huge part of that and helping me a lot, especially during the off season when you really couldn't do too much with the pandemic going on. But those guys, they take every chance they can to make you better, and appreciate them for it, for sure.
I know Mitch is really big into mental stuff and kind of just doing a lot of stuff that maybe a lot of different coaches and a lot of different programs aren't doing. Does that feel kind of unique to the baseball world?
Yeah, I think so. The mental side of baseball is something you don't see so much from the spectator side, but it is huge. It doesn't matter if you're a pitcher or a hitter. The mental side is far more important than you'd realize, for sure.
I mean, how refreshing is it to have a coach that kind of takes so much of that into account?
It's a blessing. It's a blessing for sure. I guess I can't really speak for other programs and how much they do for it, but I know that we put a big emphasis on it, especially when you get here right away, make plans for your approach if you're a hitter, and your funnel if you're a pitcher, trying to get everything put together so you don't stray from that. And that's been a huge part of my improvement, for sure.
Could you elaborate on, because we're not there to see what you guys do on a day-to-day basis. What does the mental approach and Mitch's, the way he goes about that, what does that look like for you guys? How do you guys go through that?
Well, it's different for every guy, obviously. For me, my biggest thing is being refocused and letting go of whatever happened to the last pitch. So if I throw a ball, I just forget about it. If I throw a strike, I forget about it. I'm trying to win every pitch as if it's my first or my last, and just keep playing just like that. I can't go out and throw one inning and be like, okay, that was my last one. It's just everyone is one at a time. So it's just a soft reset on the mound, get back on the rubber, and just say, all right, this is my best pitch of the day. This is my best pitch of the day, over and over until I'm done.
And so every guy has kind of his own thing, so to speak. How do you identify that? Who are you working with to try to shape, those types of actions?
That part gets kind of complicated because you spend weeks developing your process, figuring out what works for you. Any coaches on the staff can have suggestions. Darwin has helped me a lot with my mental game as well, and even Coach Gibson has. And everybody adds their little bits and pieces into it and builds your process. And you kind of take what you like from each one. And once you have it all together, and then you just kind of stick with that, and you can keep adding or subtracting, building, strengthening it along the way. It's just one of those things you keep working on forever.
And you guys kind of do meditation and stuff like that occasionally also, don't you?
Oh yeah, we do meditation probably every practice and definitely before every game.
Had you ever done that in a baseball environment prior to arriving at Oregon State?
I'd never really done like meditation stuff. I just kind of focused up before the game, just done some visualization for sure, but I never done like any of the breath work or other meditation style stuff that we do.
And who guides you through the meditation? And is it done as a team? Or are you separated into position groups?
It's optional to do. There's a lot of guys that do it. It's position players and pitchers mixed, but it's usually Joey Wong or Coach Gibson that guide through the meditation and breathwork stuff.
And sorry to keep bombarding you with questions. If you end up being strapped for time, just let me know. But Mitch has talked about kind of your off-speed stuff and how I think he mentioned last year you guys were down in Arizona. He kind of saw you mixing in your changeup really well, and it's kind of just evolved from there. Where do you think your off-speed stuff is at right now? And then, I mean, you hit 94 at PK Park the other day. Do you feel like you're kind of mixing everything together the way you would want right now?
I feel like I'm in a good spot with my pitches right now. They're doing all right. I would like to be more consistent with my fastball command, and I think my slider can get loopy at sometimes. I try to keep it hard, try to keep it around like 84, just so it's sharper. My changeup, I'd like to say that I'm happy with it, but it's very hit or miss. I would like to be able to throw it consistently. I think that's what you need to be a starter at the next level, and that's ultimately my goal. But at times it can be very good, which is promising, I think.
What does like a good changeup day for you look like? What is it doing when it's working well?
It's just in the zone. Yeah, I mean, I'll throw one that's really good at the bottom of the zone, and the next one will be 54 feet, and Troy will Hammy will have to block it. So if it gets to the zone, I'm happy.
You kind of alluded to this a minute ago, but do you envision yourself long term as a starter or a reliever, or how do you view that?
I think I have potential to be a starter. I've obviously started a couple times this year, and I think that if I was able to keep going with that, I think that I could do a good job with that, and that's ultimately my goal. Yes.
Has it been weird kind of being in that in-between role this year, getting a couple starts, but also having some long relieving outings?
No, I take that as a very big compliment on the team. Just being able to be trusted to go out and get innings at whatever time, whether it's just a short appearance or it's a start where I go for longer, I think that that's a big role. And I'm very happy to be the one that has to take that up. I think that's a big responsibility.
I wanted to ask about, obviously, growing up with your dad as a big leaguer. How much did that kind of shape, I don't know, your outlook on baseball and, I mean, your desire to keep playing this game at the college and hopefully the pro level?
I mean, that's like my everything for me. I grew up with baseball and I'm in love with baseball. And obviously, my dad has helped me become the player that I am today. And I really don't know where I would be without all that knowledge and information and experiences that I've had.
Hey guys, last one for Jack.
Yeah, Jack, I mean, and I guess in kind of the best way you can explain, what is that like growing up? When your dad's kind of going from ballpark to ballpark and you're kind of trying to navigate your own baseball career, is it difficult?
Yeah, at times. I mean, I was very young at the time, so I have limited memory of what happened, but it's definitely some experiences that I'll never forget. And it wasn't so much learning about baseball at that point as it was just being around it and it kind of turned me into like a student of the game and admire. And that's kind of how I fell in love with baseball. And it's something I'll always carry with me.